Yeah, quiet down, quiet down, quiet down. Welcome back to the heavy metal Citadel. Oh, we got a real special show for you today for, I don't know, celebrating the return of a couple of bands to the stage after a very long time. On December 14th, we saw Sigh, followed by Anaal Nathrakh. Yes, an unlikely bill, but amazing nonetheless. Two bands who have been going for decades and decades with an insanely good discography, both of them. Playing at a pretty new venue. I haven't seen them at this kind of venue before. To be fair, they don't have many metal shows there. And apologies for a tin can production. Trying to find the room was a nightmare. But nevertheless, what do we talk about? Various things, for sure. With Anaal Nathrakh, we talk about performing on stage. I created some weird AI questions. I mean, this is a band, where Dave's a philosopher, so I said, perfect opportunity for this. We have a dear old friend also of Dave's ask a question too, which is quite funny. And then afterwards, we managed to find, well, I say we, and I've been saying we a lot, but really it's just me. It's just I, because our fellow friend Short is off canoodling on holiday somewhere. But nevertheless, I managed to somewhat make it work by myself. And so I did manage to find Mirai from Sai in the hallway somewhere, which is great. And he was kind enough to also share 10 minutes. And we had a good chat about, death. Mainly death. But the new album, Japanese culture, and how they first came to Euronymous' record label. So it's been, quite a wild ride. Nevertheless, Anaal Nathrakh is first here, and you must know them by now. Obviously, an institution in the UK metal scene, have a number of great records. Tonight, well, I say tonight, Wednesday, December 14th, when they performed without Mick, as he's in the States, but with his full blessing. What was originally a gruesome twosome now became into a gruesome fivesome. And so we've got members of Voices and Akirkaki actually coming in to step in to support, which is fantastic, and they pulled it off so well. Check out our show review on our website, heavymetalcitadel.com, and for all your metal needs. But yeah, the show was amazing. What more can I say? Without further ado, here's the interview with Dave from Anaal Nathrakh. All right, this is your host for tonight, Chernoglav, and we are Heavy Metal Citadel. Today we are in a dingy and very damp basement, not unlike our Citadel, and we're here with one of the legendary bands from the UK scene. And I think this whole place kind of fits in with their whole ethos, which is fantastic. We've got here today one part of Anaal Nathrakh, Dave Hunt, aka Vitriol, and it's been an absolute pleasure. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm all right, thank you. It's been interesting trying to find somewhere we could have a chat without the background noise, and astonishingly enough, I think that might be an air conditioning unit you can hear in the background.
Yeah, so you will be hearing dripping water throughout this whole interview.
Yeah, given that it's sub-zero at the moment, air conditioning is just what you need.
Freezing our asses off. But it's perfect. It's a unique occasion. It's a unique interview spot.
Exactly.
It's been more than 2 years since the release of Endarkenment, and you're back on stage. What's running through your head at the moment?
Shit. I'm not sure actually. It's a very very strange collision of feelings about it. Because we've never done tours, day in day out, that kind of thing. But we've played around a fair bit and done quite regularly for quite some time. And then just as we'd finished recording Endarkenment, pointless even saying what happened. Everyone knows what happened. And so this is the first time in getting on for 3.5 years, I think, I've done a gig or anything like that. Yeah, so it's a very strange collision of familiar environments in a way. I mean, we've never played this venue before, but they're all fundamentally similar. But at the same time, a weird aspect of novelty and also this sort of detached nostalgia. It's an odd setup, but it's not negative necessarily. I mean, I'm always have been someone who finds playing live quite stressful.
Yeah.
Some people are just naturals; they love it and they can't wait to get out there. I'd brick myself every gig, and always have done, always will. So there's a bit of that, but it's mixed in with this weird sort of excitement to be doing it again after so long. And
of course, there's a certain thrill about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, obviously, we're playing with people I've not done a show with before.
Yeah. I mean, you've been to Japan 4 times, but you've never, played with a Japanese band.
I don't mean Psy, I mean in the band.
Oh, in the band. Oh, yes, of course.
We've got Dan, the live lead guitarist, who's been our mate for years and played with him plenty, but everyone else is new.
Yeah.
Never played with them before. It's Akakoki, voices guys, so obviously they're not new to doing it. And it's been an absolute pleasure learning the songs with him and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, it adds to this weird novelty about it all. So,
well, luckily they're friends, aren't they? So I've seen some rehearsal videos that seem to go quite well. And you mentioned in one other interview, I mean, you've played with these bands on stage before, of course, here in the UK. And you mentioned this line, of course, with your philosophical background. And you talked about how they're more Apollonian, and then you're Dionysus. They're within, they've got their own architecture. They're more by the book. Then Anaal Nathrakh is a bit of chaos. But now it's interesting because these two forces are kind of combining to play the songs tonight. So I mean, that's really exciting.
Yeah, I suppose if you were to look at it on that kind of axis, Akakoki would certainly be a bit more Apollonian or Apollinine. So yeah, that is an interesting dynamic, I suppose, isn't it? But I think we'll all be mucking into the general feral savagery of it all tonight.
I cannot wait to see it on stage. Endarkenment was actually my first exposure to your music, so I am very late in the game. However, it turned out to be my album of the year that year.
It was a good first start.
Yeah, exactly. I think it hit me at the right time. Let's say. I've just been delving into your music since then. And
I can only apologise.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much, Dave. It's too much. But I guess the first thing that struck me, of course, is the artwork. So I shared it right away with Chort, our co-host, who couldn't be here today. I said, listen, I know you love pigs. This artwork is going to blow your mind. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you conceptualized that and the more multi-layered aspects of it?
Yeah, there actually are. Looking at it for the first time, if someone's never seen it and listens to this and goes, "Oh, I'll have a look at that," don't expect fucking Constable or something. It's quite confrontational. It's quite a blunt image, but surprising as it may seem, there is intended to be at least some subtlety to it. It actually grows from an idea I had when talking to Mick a long, long time ago, and it was basically just thinking of awful things to do for a piece of artwork. We were going to do it for real.
Oh, okay. As in try to exhibit it, or
no, as in the version that you see on the album cover is made with photo manipulation and stuff like that. Mick does that.
So you wanted a still life of a real pig.
So I was going to actually use it, the real objects and everything.
Amazing.
But on reflection, that seems weirdly, possibly you might think for people coming from our perspective, but I didn't want to disrespect the animal in that way. But although it started as just an idea for something fucking horrible, as thinking about the themes of Endarkenment and so on, because we recorded the album before deciding what to use, and it was like, hang on, that old idea sort of started to make more sense. And I intended, I mean, if you spoke to Mick, he'd probably say, I've no idea what you're on about, but I intend it as kind of a visual metaphor for the condition of the modern human being in society. We are treated, we certainly felt like at that time, and since then it's become only more so, we are treated as livestock effectively, I think, to some extent by portions of society, or sort of just the general gestalt of society renders us such, and that's not that uncommon a trope. You know,
Yeah.
there are lots of dystopian sci-fi things that have similar things, or
Yeah,
was it Soylent Green and
of
all that
course.
kind of stuff. But the pig has always been something that's crept into our stuff because of my subconscious a bit, but it seems a particularly human sort of analog animal.
Yeah.
Apparently we taste like them. Physiologically we're very similar to
We eat
them.
everything, you know.
Yeah.
We
so-
wallow in our own shit sometimes.
Yeah, so it's a close metaphor for humans. So to that extent we are treated like livestock, but this disembodied, sort of harshly separate from the world existence is part of an atomised individualism that creeps in to what it is to be alive nowadays. And then then the turning point, because it ain't just a picture of a pig, is it? Then it comes, there's a line that I remember being in 1984 that I don't think is actually there, which is a bit weird. But Julia, the honey pot woman in that, I recall there being a line where she says all this protesting, all these things that are happening, well, not happening in 1984, but that people have an impulse to do. They're just sex gone wrong.
Yeah.
They're that fundamental urge, but society forces it to be channeled and for it to emerge in a different way. And that definitely seems to be the case with quite a lot of human behaviour. But we're encouraged to view the world through these libidinous eyes. There is mention of sex all over the place, and I'm not a prude about it. I don't care if there are tits on paper, but there's this highly sexualised, but also more generally libidinous. It appeals to our chaotic and baser instincts.
Yeah, to
a
the
lot of
carnal, basic nature of
Exactly.
the human race, right?
So even if it's not just sex, it's violence, or it's some sort of hierarchical competition with other people over things that don't matter, or it's these weird sort of conflict, sexual based things. And it seemed to me that we look out at the world through that as a prism. Therefore, we have, in a metaphorical sense, cocks in our eyes. I could go on more than that, but you get the idea.
Yeah. It's already a great answer. I love it.
Yeah, but this is intended somehow to capture some of that.
Yeah.
There's a whole load of stuff that you can read into any decent piece of art.
Yeah.
I hesitate to credit us, particularly with a decent piece of art, but I would like to aspire to that, and I think there are themes you can pick out and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. No, it makes total sense.
Plus, I had a print run of t-shirts done for this gig tonight, and there's a riff on Pigsy.
Oh yeah?
On the design, so
great.
yeah, maybe you see it
One up.
later.
Brilliant. Which is great. You've already covered two of my questions. One was about pigs, and one was about Orwell. So you've kind of touched on those things. But your lyrics often deal with themes of violence, chaos, and destruction. Can you discuss what motivates you to explore these topics, how you approach writing lyrics that are both intense and thought-provoking?
It's kind of like saying, why do anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
To me, they're tied in with how the world appears to be. There's no like wider artistic aim or something. It's saying, it's looking out, going, what's all that? What's going on? What's really happening? Preoccupied to some extent with looking under the surface, trying to find out what's actually behind things. And all of that stuff appears to be written large across the world to me. So it's a reflection on existence. Is that broad enough?
It is, and actually, there was two reasons why I asked you that question. Obviously, it's an interesting question, but actually, that question was created by an AI. So
I see, right.
I felt like you're the perfect person to talk to about this because you just released your thesis, you've got a doctorate in philosophy. So I was looking, and I'll give you the list answer afterwards. I asked an AI, asked some questions for Anaal Nathrakh, and that was one of the questions, and I thought that was, that's scarily specific.
Yeah, if you could, I'd like you to send me that question.
Yeah, so, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Is there a way that you're worried that, I guess, the human aspect is going to be overtaken by the technological aspect?
Objection, my lord. Leading question. No, yeah, there is. I'll say it.
I'm seeing it. It was quite scary, yes.
Yeah, but yeah, one of the reasons that I am sceptical about that kind of thing, I am a little sceptical about it, as much as fascinated by what it might do, is that I think it's not that far off becoming a competitor to something that we don't understand already. I think we already fail to understand an awful lot about what consciousness is, what we are, what we're doing. I mean, particularly the consciousness stuff, which there's, without wanting to get too high level, because people are going to listen.
I've got a very light question following this, so don't worry.
Right, but yeah, if you go in, read some David Chalmers or something like that, there's loads of stuff out there that people don't realise how little we understand about what a person is in some quite fundamental ways. So I think if you're going to have something that comes along that competes with, not necessarily worrying about replacement or anything, I think that's a little paranoid. I think things will work out differently than that, but just that sets itself almost in opposition to us, and we haven't figured this bit out yet. And I think that is a deeply fundamental issue with AI. So it's worrying in a way that I don't hear other people articulating. They have other worries about it.
Yeah, of course, because there's other things people need to worry about in this world, which is the perfect way for AI to infiltrate, as everyone's too busy with their own shit. So, I mean, I did promise on a lighter note. This is an anonymous question I've received, and I hope you know how to answer.
This is ZX Spectrum sent this one in.
How many beans make 5?
2 beans a bean and a half bean.
Can you give me some context behind that?
No.
No.
No, you either know that answer or you don't.
Exactly. It was sent anonymously by MK.
Was it now? I see.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be very pleased to hear that I could answer it correctly straight away. We did once try to order 5 pints of cider in a similar manner.
Oh, okay.
And we were pitching ourselves, and this poor girl behind the bar was just whatever. Fucking idiots. But yeah, that's definitely the answer.
Good stuff. You were quite cryptic about later touring plans in your when you wrote about this show tonight. I thought it was interesting. I took it as a positive sign that you're doing interviews, which is great. So, are we going to see more music? So, is the more music angle concrete, and then the live music is a little bit up in the air?
Nothing is established. Nothing is concrete. Not that it ever was. Particularly, we've never done anything according to plan, particularly beyond the next 12 months or something. We've never felt ourselves to be on a trajectory or anything like that. But the bottom line is Mick is now so busy with his production work, when he will get a chance to do some more music, yet alone doing gigs. I mean, even if he wanted to more than anything else in the world, he just couldn't be here for these. So, gigs, I still think there's worth doing some more gigs in a sort of unfinished business sense. And I think this show's sold pretty well and stuff like that. So I think people out there agree that that's the case.
Brilliant.
So I'd like to do some more maybe if people are receptive to it, and I think maybe they are because they can understand the unfinished business bit. Although it is a bit absurd. A bit absurd not to have Mick with us, but he can't be with us. The more music thing, we'll get this done and then I'll have a chat to Mick after it. But he's so fucking busy, he doesn't have any time for anything at the moment. So we'll see. Fingers crossed, yeah. It's certainly not established that we won't. We just haven't had that chat yet because of life intervened in the middle.
Okay. We'll finish with a real quick speed round. So just tell me off the top of your head. And just answer the first one that comes to your mind. J.L. Mackie or Richard Joyce?
Ooh.
You gotta be quicker than that. It's the speed round.
You ask someone a question like that about what they wrote a PhD on and say, no, fast. Not Richard Joyce.
Okay.
That's my answer.
Great.
I wouldn't necessarily say Mackie instead, but not Richard Joyce.
Doom or Quake?
Quake.
The Supremes or
My
Chopin?
coach says Doom on it.
Oh, who is he?
Chopin.
Chopin.
Yeah, that one's easy.
That one's easy. And any last words for the audience?
Thanks for stumbling through this halting load of rubbish. I hope you've enjoyed it. And yeah, hopefully we'll get a chance to see you at some point.
Thank you.
We'll see.
Yeah. Really looking forward to seeing you on stage tonight. Thanks so much again.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Say, are you a black metal band that's obsessed with farm animals? Do you like wearing pig hoofs as hands, but can't afford the risky and often failed procedure of an elective porcus manus operation? Well, worry no more. NatRam's trusted oink hands are here. That's right, Silence's Frontman has his own line of over-the-counter replica pig hoofs stained in human blood that easily now glide onto your hands. Make a splash at your next company presentation.
So, if you look over at the chart for Q2, you'll see our quarterly projections.
Say, Bob, are those pig hoofs?
Why, yes, actually, Bill, they're oink hands.
Say thank you by offering it as a gift. Cindy, you got me oink hands for my birthday, you stupid slut, they're perfect! Or just use it to commit a litany of heinous crimes and leave absolutely no fingerprints. We don't care! We're just a shell corporation for Swedish DSBM band Silencer. So remember guys, if you're looking to drench yourself in blood and be half pig, half man, the only answer is NatRam's patented oink hands. And don't forget, if it doesn't come with a cassette tape with NatRam squeals and certification, it's not the real thing. That's right guys, NatRam, oink hands, get them today!
And now, back to our show. I'm watching the sound check right now for Psy. I'm going to see if I can find Mirai somewhere in this building. We'll be right back. We are here outside sitting on a couch with the ever-amazing Mirai Kawashima.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
From Psy, who's, I believe, has just arrived from Japan.
Yeah. We came here actually yesterday.
Yeah.
So still I'm suffering from a little bit of jet lag, but well,
Understandable.
okay, yeah.
Well, it's been the first time you've come to London, and I think, what was it, 12 years?
Yes. The time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, when I think what I was doing 12 years ago, it's like, wow, okay, so much has happened since then. And I think so much has happened in our life. Obviously, we've lost a few years with the pandemic and all. But I think we're all, you know, getting closer to death, to put it bluntly. And the reason I bring that up is obviously that's kind of what you base the newest album on. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, now I'm 52.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely death is not a fantasy anymore. So even from the very beginning of the band, I have been dealing with death as a theme of the album and the songs. But
of course.
well, 'cause when you are 20 or 30, this is just a fantasy. It's like a horror. It's scary. Of course, you could die at the age of 20, but still, it's just very hard to imagine you have to die. But when you are over 50, unfortunately, some of your friends start dying. And I just lost my dad this July. So this is a harsh reality now.
Yeah.
So this time I wanted to express my naked feeling. A fear of death as straightforwardly and very as honestly as possible. That was the theme of the new album.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, you feel represented, even though I don't understand the lyrics per se, but you feel that kind of mournful parts of the album. There's a couple of slower bits as well, so it really kind of puts across that plodding end of our lives, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, even when you were younger, you're talking about 20s. I mean, you've seen death. And I'm speaking of, when you were assigned to Death Like Silence, obviously there is a history there of death and violence. Can you bring us back to the past a little bit and talk about that period of your life?
Yeah, because we started in 1990, but the early 90s was death metal and grindcore a huge thing. It was a big boom back then. But I myself grew up in the 80s, so I was totally into thrash metal, especially before Master of Puppets by Metallica. Before thrash metal became something intelligent. I prefer the very straightforward, evil thrash metal. Yeah. Because I grew up with that kind of stuff. So when death metal and grindcore became a boom, I felt I kind of couldn't keep up with the scene anymore because I missed some evil thrash metal like Bathory, Sodom, Hellhammer, Garrick Frost, Venom, and that kind of stuff. So, but in the early 90s, no label was interested in signing the bands that were influenced by thrash metal because they were totally enthusiastic about death metal and grindcore.
Yeah.
So I sent out our demo to every record label from all over the world I knew, but Euronymous was the only one who replied and showed interest inside. So
Wow.
even actually I wrote the letter to Dead, not Euronymous, but
Yeah.
Dead was already, he already killed himself, but that was the before internet era, so I didn't have any information about his suicide, so I didn't know, and I wrote the letter to Dead, but Euronymous got back to me instead of him and saying, unfortunately, Dead killed himself and something like that.
Yeah.
So, and I was not sure about Death Like Silence Records because they had only one release, Merciless, back then. So
Yeah.
I was not sure if they were active or not. But Euronymous was the only one who showed interest inside. So I had to say yes because
course.
we had no choice.
Yeah.
Then our correspondence is started. So I sometimes had a phone call with him. So it was a very good old days before the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, and onto a kind of a lighter note. I mean, I've got a patch here from Barbatos. So you've, obviously Barbatos is Yasuyuki Suzuki. He's the one in the band. But I wanted to just chat about how you talk about the scene was very different in Japan back then. How is the scene in Japan now? Because I know Yasuyuki played with you a couple of times, so I think a lot of bands know each other. You talk with Abigail and Intestine Ballism. So, is there a nice camaraderie between the bands in Japan at the moment, or has it always been like that, especially on the extreme side?
I don't know. Yeah, I think the scene has been the same because the underground musicians and fans are usually very close and they are like they have a feeling of camaraderie, as I said. And of course, Yasuyuki is one of the best friends in the scene because, as I said, in the early 90s, nobody was interested in thrash metal, but Yasuyuki was the only exception.
He was the only exception,
yes.
okay.
So we always, hanging out together. We went to the record stores and bought a lot of cheap LPs because nobody wanted the thrash metal LPs back then. So it was very easy to find the $1.
Oh, that's
vinyl
great.
back then. Yeah.
It's like 30 quid now. So
yes. So it was different. It's like a heaven for the vinyl hunters back
yeah,
then.
I mean, you must have had quite a collection.
Oh yes. But
You still have the collection, I
well,
guess.
actually no, because the older I got, I don't know. Probably the trigger was a big earthquake in 2011.
Yes.
We had a huge earthquake in March of 2011, and my room became a kind of mess because all the CDs and vinyl and the keyboards fell down.
Yeah.
I was kind of sick of having too many things. I was collecting CDs, vinyls, books, synthesizers, and so my room was totally packed, and it became a total mess after the earthquake. So after that, I
More
sold-
minimalist.
Yeah, I still keep some rare vinyls, rare CDs, and
Yeah.
some vintage keyboards, but I decided to sell most of the the usual standard LPs after that. Unfortunately, yeah.
And as you get older, it seems like you're more and more connected to your country. From what I can hear from the music, before, maybe even now, but more lean towards Western music. But now I feel like with Air to Despair and Shiki, you've gone quite more to the traditional elements
Yeah,
of
that's
Japanese. Even though they've always been present, now it's even more so. Why do you think you have that heightened connection to the country's tradition now?
It's a very strange thing, but when I was younger, especially in the 70s and 80s, especially for the little kids, the things that were very Japanese were very lame.
Yeah.
Probably, we were, longing for
Something different.
something different.
Crazy like adventure,
Why, something American, the people were getting Americanized back then. So somehow kids were kind of sick of, the very, very Japanese traditional music. Those things were very, very lame to the little kids. So the same. That's one of the reasons I started listening to heavy metal, because heavy metal was
It's a rebellion.
It's rebellion, and it's a Western culture.
Yeah.
So it looked and sounded very, very cool to me. So I didn't want to have any Japanese element, at least musically, when I studied the bands. Of course, I used images and some, the lyrical theme for Japanese topics, Japanese occultism and Oriental occultism. But I didn't want any Japanese element in our music. But somehow, as I got older, I started to, listening to the traditional Japanese music.
Yeah. Different ear, different appreciation.
Yeah. I don't know why, but re-evaluation of the culture of ourselves. So that's the reason. So I started playing some Japanese traditional instruments like shakuhachi, the Japanese flute. And
Yes.
So
You learned that one for Air to Despair, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And the
Taishokoto.
Taishokoto.
Taishokoto is it's a Japanese instrument too, but that's a very easy one. If you can play the keyboard, the piano, you can play it very easily.
Okay, all right.
But shakuhachi is very, very difficult. It's just it's a Japanese flute, but you need some technique.
You need a little bit
Yeah.
more than just
Oh,
blowing
yes.
into it and
Yeah.
covering one or two holes. Okay.
Yes.
That makes it. But yeah, do you recommend any kind of interesting Japanese instruments that people should look at? Or to keep an ear open for during this album? What was your favorite one to play?
Well, I like the shakuhachi a lot. And
Yeah.
to me, the wind instrument is very, very fascinating. I don't know why, but I like to play flute and shakuhachi. It's very, I don't know. It's pleasant to play that kind of instrument rather than playing piano. Piano is it's a cool instrument, but it's not very physical. It's
It's not very nuanced. You hit the key and that's
Yes.
the note.
You can even the cat can play it if you
Yeah.
just sit on the key. You
Yeah.
can make a
Even
sound.
I can play it. I can make
yes.
sounds.
Flute and shakuhachi is totally different. You
Yeah.
have to you need some breath technique just to make a sound.
Okay.
So I think it's the wind instrument is closer to the human voice. So it's much more fun to play that kind of instrument rather than playing the piano. Piano is a very rational
Yep.
instrument. It's
And you're classically trained for a
yes,
long time,
yes.
right? So you've had plenty of experience with the piano.
Yeah, but I still prefer to play the flute or shakuhachi. these days.
Exactly. No, and it's great to hear all those influences in the music.
yeah.
Just coming to the last two questions here, really. I want to ask you a little bit about a speed round. So I'm going to give you two things, and you have to choose one. You can elaborate if you want, but you have to choose one. So, Death Angel or Dark Angel?
Oh, Dark Angel.
Dark Angel.
Oh, yes. Because I think, of course, Death Angel is cool, but Darkness Descends, the side A of Darkness Descends, that was one of the fastest records in 1986.
Yeah.
Especially
Is that Gene Hoglan that played
Yes,
on that
Gene
one?
Hoglan.
Yeah, yeah.
So I heard the burning of Sodom on the compilation album called Bullet.
Okay.
Back then, so that was very, very shocking. I never heard such a fast drumming in 1986. So.
It's amazing still now, to be honest with
yes.
you. Portishead Dummy or Massive Attack Protection?
It's just very hard to choose.
Yeah.
But
Both great
both,
trip hop.
yes, but I prefer Dummy.
Dummy.
Just slightly better.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, and the massive Attack has the dub version with who was it? Professor Protection's dub version of
With Professor Green?
no. I don't remember. They've got
It's just details. But okay.
Dummy is slightly better.
Fair enough. That's a good one. Frank Zappa songs. Let's talk Frank Zappa songs. Don't Eat the Yellow Snow or Jewish Princess?
Wow, maybe Jewish Princess.
Yeah, Jewish Princess. Yeah, it's a fun one. Any other Zappa songs that are your favorites?
Yeah, let's make the water tank.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah. Well, let's make the water turn green or
Okay.
black. Which was the title? Let's make the water turn green. That's that sounds
Amazing. And last one, Osaka or Kyoto?
Oh, of course, Kyoto.
Kyoto.
It's much better. Osaka is cool too, but Kyoto is a very very traditional place with a lot of time-honored temples and so it's Osaka and Kyoto are close. You know, I mean the distance. It's close, but culture is totally different. So you should visit Kyoto to feel some traditional Japanese things. Yeah.
Perfect. 'Cause that's I wanted to use you as a mini tour, so I was like, oh, great. So that's a good recommendation for next year. So thanks for that. And final question really is, you know, you're back on stage here in London. What can fans expect from a Sigh show?
Well, we're gonna play everything from the debut album to the latest one. So
That's what I want to hear.
yeah, so I hope the people will enjoy it. So it's there'll be a huge backdrop with artwork from Siki. So it's a very Japanese stage for sure.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Cannot wait. Looking forward to it. Mirai, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Great. We'll see you on stage tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
Well, that's our show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you didn't, well, maybe listen to it again. It's a grower. It's definitely a grower. So have a good evening, and Citadel out.